Hi, this Ike from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book on tape to play for you. Today book is Puss in Boots from 1986. So let's get started.
The Rainbow Works presents another favorite storybook and tape called Puss in Boots. The story was written by Charles Perrault, and the pictures were done by Lucinda McQueen. Whenever you hear this sound, you'll know it's time to turn the page. After you have listened to the story, you can turn the tape over and hear this story again. Are you ready? Find the picture of a boy and a cat under a tree near a mill.
Once there was a poor miller who had 3 children. When the time came to divide his wealth among them, he had nothing to give but a mill, a donkey, and a cat. The eldest got the mill, the second got the donkey, and the youngest got the cat.
What good is a cat?
The youngest moaned.
With nothing more than this, I am sure to die of hunger.
Puss heard these words.
Don't worry, master.
He said,
Just give me a sack and a pair of boots, and you will see that things are not so bad as you think.
The master knew that Puss was clever, for he had seen the cat's wonderful ways of catching rats and mice. So he thought the cat might really be able to help him. When Puss had the things he had asked for, he put on the boots and slung the sack over his shoulder. Then he went along till he came to a thicket that was full of rabbits. He put some greens in his sack, then lay still and waited. Soon a wild young rabbit came, sniffed, and entered the sack. Puss quickly pulled the sack shut. Then he went to the palace and asked to speak to the king.
Here, sire,
He said,
is a rabbit that the Marquis of Carabas asked me to present to you.
Tell your master
replied the king.
that I thank him.
The next day, Puss hid in a wheat field and held his sack open. He caught 2 partridges and went to present them to the king. The king received the partridges with pleasure. Every day for the next few months, Puss brought the king some small game for his supper. One day, when he was at the palace, Puss learned that the king was going for a drive along the river with his daughter, the most beautiful princess in the world. Puss ran home and said to his master,
If you follow my advice, your fortune will be made. You must bathe in the river at the place that I show you. Then let me do what I will.
The master did what the cat advised him, though he didn't know what good might come of it. While the young man was bathing, the king and his daughter happened to pass by. Puss began to cry with all his might.
Help! Help! The Marquis of Carabas is drowning!
When he heard this cry, the king looked out of the carriage. Recognizing the cat who had brought him so much tasty game, he ordered his guards to go quickly to the aid of the Marquis of Carabas.
Guards!
Meanwhile, Puss told the king that some robbers had stolen his master's fine clothes and thrown the young man into the river. But really, Puss himself had hidden his master's rags under a rock. The king at once ordered the guards to fetch one of the handsomest suits from the palace. Puss's master was a good-looking youth. When the beautiful princess saw how fine he looked in her father's rich clothes, she instantly fell in love with him. The king asked the Marquis to step into the carriage and ride with them. Puss delighted that his plan was beginning to succeed, ran on ahead. When he came upon some peasants who were harvesting wheat, he said,
Good harvesters, tell the king that this wheat belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, or you will all be chopped into bits.
And sure enough, when the king passed, he asked the harvesters,
Whose field is this?
It belongs to the Marquis of Carabas.
They said all together.
You have fine fields here.
Said the king to the Marquis of Carabas. Puss kept running ahead of the carriage. Wherever he saw people working in the fields, he made the same threat. And wherever the king stopped to ask the name of the landlord, he heard the same answer.
I never knew of anyone who owned as much fine farmland as you.
The king told the Marquis. Now, all that fine farmland really belonged to a rich ogre. Puss was careful to find out about the ogre and the things he did. Puss finally arrived at the ogre's handsome castle and demanded to speak to the owner. The ogre received Puss as politely as an ogre can and asked him to sit down.
They tell me,
Said Puss,
that you are able to change yourself into any big animal. For example, a lion or an elephant.
That is true.
the ogre said.
And to prove it to you, I will become a lion.
Puss was so frightened to see a lion before him that he raced up the wall and clung to the rafters. When the ogre had returned to his original form, Puss came down and spoke again.
They tell me, too,
Said Puss,
that you also are able to take the form of the smallest animal. For example, a rat or a mouse. I cannot believe that.
You will see.
replied the ogre, and he changed himself into a mouse that scurried across the floor. Before another moment had passed, Puss pounced and ate the mouse. Just then, Puss heard the king's carriage passing over the castle drawbridge. He ran out and said to the king,
Your Majesty, welcome to the castle of the Marquis of Carabas.
What? Marquis!
cried the king.
This handsome castle is yours too. Let us see the inside, if you please.
The Marquis gave his hand to the young princess, and they all went inside. There they found a magnificent feast waiting to be eaten. It was the ogre's leftover lunch. The king was thoroughly pleased with the meal, and with the wealthy Marquis of Carabas. He said,
I will have no one but you for my son-in-law.
the Marquis, bowing deeply, accepted the honor and married the princess that same day. Puss became a great lord and chased mice only for fun forever after.
So that was Puss in Boots from 1986. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Have a groovy day. Our next book will be Count and Fun number 1 through 12.